Yes, that's right. We are back,
We're back.
baby.
We're back.
How is it going? Stephen Fishback, Survivor
Oh
Know-It-All.
my God, it feels so good to be in the know-it-alls chair. Wiggler did an amazing job last. I feel like I'm like the David Lee Roth of the podcast. He's like the Sammy Hagar. Probably a better technician. Probably the chops are better, but my pants are tighter, and I've got more emotional issues. So that's
Yeah.
the original lineup, Rob.
All right. Well, get ready for the two guys that are going to crawl inside your ear and end up with hopefully not a bloody eardrum at the end of this. But, Steven is a yeller.
I'm trying to keep it. I'm trying to contain myself.
Yeah. So very exciting night to have
But Jim
Steve
Kramer's
Fishback.
he just done well. No?
Who's done well?
Mad Money, the Mad Money guy. He's yelling.
Jim Kramer? We're doing financial news?
It's a good start. I'm a little bit rusty. All right, it's been a couple of months.
Yeah, Steven has been around the world and back since we've last talked, here on the Know-It-Alls at least, to Cambodia, and now he's back to talk about everybody who looks for idols tonight and much more.
I noticed you have the Knowing Us Know-It-All trophy behind you, Rob.
Yeah, well, we can have a formal presentation next week when Stephen Fishback and I are live back together in the West Coast, on the West Coast for the West Coast Know-It-Alls next Wednesday night. So no live show next week, but we will be in person and recording a great show for you guys to hear on the podcast. Of course, you want to subscribe to RHAP for all of that here at the start of the season. It's going to be a big couple days here on the podcast. We're going to, of course, speak with King Darnell. What?
Unbelievable. Such a terrible first boot because, I feel like he had a lot to offer this season.
Yeah, I don't know. I was rooting for Alicia at Tribal Council. I was really bummed out to see Darnell go home.
I know. There's something great about how much of a hot mess Alicia is, and as an authority on hot messes, I feel like I can say that I think Alicia has a lot to offer this season.
All right, so we'll have exit interview with Darnell, so check that out on Thursday. Plus, we got a great recap to start things off. Jeff Varner, your buddy.
Oh yeah.
Gonna have him recap with Jeff Varner and then voicemails with Bryce. So big couple days to recap this episode, but it all starts here tonight with the Knowing Us Know-It-All back.
Oh my God.
Steven, how surreal was it for you to watch an episode of Survivor that you were not on?
Oh my God, it's so much better to be watching, to be judging based on limited information. Let me start off by saying that, if you're a contestant on this show or a relative or a loved one of a contestant on this show, just know that we're going to be getting it flagrantly wrong. We have very limited information. We have an edit that's incredibly cut down. You probably were amazing out there, and everything we think about you is completely off base. But we got a show to produce here, people. We got airtime to fill.
Yeah, we got 45 minutes, 50 minutes. We can't go through everything. And it's like, oh, well, this person probably, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. People tune in to see us make,
terrible mistakes,
decisions, really quick takes on things. And that's what we're here to do. So, Steven, this is very exciting. Let's dig into all of this. So, Survivor, Kaoh Rong. Are you excited for Brains versus Brawn versus Beauty once again?
I mean, Kaoh, I think, was probably a lot of people's favorite season until Cambodia came along. But it was definitely one of my favorite seasons of all time. Obviously, that there's some magic in that dynamic, and I'm hoping lightning strikes twice. I legitimately am excited. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm somewhat excited. I feel like that my excitement has been sort of tempered. I saw yesterday, I was watching where you were live with Jeff Probst and Parvati, and I feel like that Jeff, for the first time I feel like ever, is really trying to sort of temper expectations on this season. So I'm sort of like, boy, the Jeff is throwing me off.
Well, I think the issue is just given how crazy last season was, and I think there was so much last season we talked about. We're pushing the game forward, and the very fact that this season was filmed beforehand, it's inherently kind of we're taking a step backwards. So I think that's got to be part of it. I also think with new players, new players are never going to be as strategically kind of like meta, as returning players. When you're a new player, you're like on the beach, you're like cutting your first coconut, you're making your first alliance. Like, isn't this cool? We're like whispering with each other behind that person's back, and when you're a returning player, that's so old hat. So I think that's there's always going to be a little bit of a lag there.
So what a crazy tribal council, though, to start off with a 3-3 tie at the first tribal council. Not a tie Trang at the first tribal council, but a 3-3 tie here. And I'm trying to think off the top of my head if we've even had a tie before at the first tribal council.
I don't know. I mean,
chat room is gonna nothing's jumping out to me, but the unless it's like one of those things where when Francesca went out the first time, if they did like a 3-3-3 vote split, that might be actually the tie at Redemption Island. But Steven, 3-3 split for Darnell and Alicia, and I really was having a hard time following. I know that Darnell lost the goggles, but I feel like that seems like, since when are we voting people out based on that they screwed up in the challenge?
Well, so I'm of two minds about this, right? Maybe I'm of three minds about this. Like, first of all, like, this is the jock tribe, right? So like, that's a given. Like, we got the basketball player, like, if anyone is going to vote out someone just based on like one challenge flub, it's the jock tribe. But I also think there's probably more to it than that. Like you're kind of implying. I mean, there's definitely stuff we didn't see. Typically that first boot is someone who's just not fitting in with the group. And as annoying as Alicia may have been, as much as she didn't, contribute around camp, there probably was some crucial element to Darnell where it was one of those kind of ineffable, lack of jivingness that we've talked about. He just didn't. My bet, and I imagine we'll probably hear this in the future, is that Darnell just didn't have that kind of connection with a lot of the people in the tribe.
Do you suspect that we had Alicia, and we've seen Kyle Jason talk about how he wants to play the Russell Hantz game. Russell Hantz is the only person that ever played this game correctly, is a quote he said in the pre-game interview.
That's a very questionable understanding of the word correctly.
And so, if you are going to come in the game and play as Russell Hantz, doesn't it seem like that he might say, as Russell Hantz famously said, I'm going to get my dumbass girls alliance going?
Right, I can see that for sure. But Jason's the one who, and I guess on the show they're calling him Jason, right? We should just go with that.
Yeah, very confusing. First off, you never trust a person with two first names.
Yeah.
Second of all, Jeff Probst is coming out and doing the last name thing with the guy with two first names on the first episode.
Wait, what's his last? Is his last name Jason?
Yeah.
And that's why they're calling him Jason. He's getting a last name Jason?
Yeah.
Oh, that seems premature. That seems very premature.
Jason. I'm like, who's Jason on this season?
I had to go 40 days before I got Fish back. I don't think he gets Jason on day one.
Yeah, so go back to what you were saying at the so we have this
so at the tribal,
split.
He's the guy who makes that. And I actually wanted to talk to you about this, Rob, because I'm not sure. In my mind, this is a good move of Jason's to be flexible on his feet at that tribal. So Jason says, to Scott and Jennifer, who are sitting next to him, I don't like our choice. I think I'm going to flip. And in the vote, he does. Which, this is such a rare occurrence at tribal council. How often does this happen? That at tribal, someone is like, you know what? I'm changing my mind. And normally I would say that's terrible. Why are you, changing your mind at tribal is terrible. Your allies, they're not going to trust you anymore. Tribal's your one opportunity to prove trust. What are you doing? But somehow the way he did it, he said to the Scott and Jennifer, I think I'm switching, and then he switched. What do you think? Is it good decision or bad decision?
I think it was a bad decision because you have to go back to camp with Alicia, and we're talking about that. Okay, well maybe it's Kyle. He's playing like Russell Hantz. He wants Alicia in his back pocket. That's why he wants to vote out Darnell. And we'd say, okay, not my favorite gameplay ever to say, okay, I'm going to be the new Russell Hantz, but it's fun to watch. But then to vote against her, then he has to go back to camp with her. So,
go ahead, sorry.
So to me, I feel like that now you have Alicia instead of that's like a vote in my pocket. That's somebody that you wrote my name down.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with you.
Don't forget that, Steven, remember?
Yeah, you don't forget that. When someone writes your name down, you do not forget that. The only thing is, I normally would agree with you. Normally I would say, like that's just, what a mistake. But there was just something about his kind of like the fact that he was so in the moment, that he could say, I'm calling an audible. Let's go this way. Then his allies don't go that way, and he's like, "All right, I'm back with you." And I agree. Like on the surface, like all of those bars, switching your vote at tribal council, having to go back to camp with someone who you voted against, all say probably not a great move. There was just something about how like present he seemed, which I was like, what, maybe there's something to this. And it's one episode in, 60 minutes of airtime or whatever. I feel like it's too soon to make that call.
I don't know. To me, I feel like that with Jennifer, it seemed like he was on the same page. But I kind of feel like that Scott Pollard is going to be a little bit like, dude, what are we doing here? You're switching your vote on me?
Yeah.
Like, I felt like that he was sort of like maybe Jenny is his number one alliance, and he thought when she was saying that, oh, that really got to me when he talked about struggling. Maybe he thought that she was flipping also, and she did.
He was going with her.
Pants down.
Right, that could be because they're definitely, she clearly was affected by that, and then you're right. Maybe he was like going with her and then got it wrong. That's interesting. Anyway, I agree. Like normally a flub. I didn't hate it here. People are going to definitely disagree with me because I think on its surface, like why what a mistake. But I liked it.
Now, do you think, was it actually about the scuba mask? Because I'm looking at this tribe dynamic, and I'm wondering if maybe this tribe wasn't divided 4-2 based on that Darnell and Sydney looked like that they were tight. We saw them talking with each other and talking about how, I trust Sydney, and she trusted Darnell.
Right.
Did that seem like that was more of a shot across the bow of that two-person alliance, and that losing the scuba mask was just a convenient excuse for the four-person alliance to take out that other competing alliance?
I mean, that's sort of what I was suggesting earlier, that like probably Darnell is not fitting in around camp as much. Maybe they see Sydney and Darnell talking a bunch. We certainly saw them kind of chattering off by themselves, and like when you're on a 30 by 30 square foot beach, like you see when two people are off by themselves. And then we also saw Sydney kind of, back with the other group. You didn't really ever see Darnell with the bigger group. Again, very limited airtime, but maybe it's partially let's break that thing up right now, right? It's not just that's the other alliance, let's undo it, but like also let's bring Sydney back into the fold.
Yeah. And Sydney, it looks like that she seems like somebody who is not going to deal with this well back at camp. That it seemed like there was that moment where Jeff said, like, Sydney, you look like you're just trying to escape from a box right now. She's like, I am.
Oh, really? I totally disagree with you. Like, I thought that, when they were in the shelter, right, and they said to Sydney, hey, like, what do you think? Are you okay with Darnell? And she was like, yeah, I'm all right with that. And I thought that was such a great little moment from her to just be like, you know what? I'm not going to push my issue. I'll bring it up at tribal council, and then so be it. Obviously she doesn't love Alicia, and she, maybe got heated in that moment. But I thought Sydney, if anything, was on the other end of the spectrum where she knows, like, I'm not going to I got to go where the group goes.
Well, I think that she might have been okay with losing Darnell, but not as okay about keeping Alicia.
Yeah, I think that's a smart dichotomy or like articulation of it. Yeah, it's funny. Alicia just really feels like she's on the wrong tribe, right? Like, what is Alicia doing on the Brawn tribe?
She's a mental giant. She should be on the Brains tribe.
Yeah. I mean, Alicia would do much better on the Beauty tribe with those beauty. I felt so bad for Alicia. It's like that's how I felt on my first day of Cambodia. It's like you go out there expecting a certain thing, and like suddenly you're like, these are the people I'm with, and they're expecting what out of me? Like, this is not the game I signed up for. Like, I'm supposed to be over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Too. Like, so it's like she's like, suddenly she's in like the workhorse alpha bro camp, and it's like she wants to be with the beauty girls, like having the sorority alliance, and poor, she's easily the weakest person out there, and she's being asked to define herself as a brawn. Like, what do you do in that circumstance? She's trying to chip in with weaving the palm frond. She's kind of screwing up with that. She's fighting the stick. What? Yeah. It's like that doesn't just. It's not just those moments, but that like as I can testify, sets you really back on your heels in like all of your interactions with everybody, where you're just sort of like frazzled. Being able to operate from a perspective of strength and confidence totally changes the way you play the game.
Yeah, I really feel like the scuba mask was a red herring because the puzzle was so close at the end, and really you could say, all right, they overcame whatever Darnell did with the scuba mask. It was Alicia sort of mumble farting with the puzzle, and then where they had to end up switching it out to have Scott Pollard come in to help with the puzzle.
Yeah, she was literally just standing there. That was kind of incredible. She wasn't even pretending to help.
Okay, so many different things to talk about with this episode. Since we're talking about the Brawn tribe, can we talk about Jenny and the ear monster from hell?
I was hoping we wouldn't have to talk about that ear monster. That was one of the most extreme moments in the show's history.
Right. Thank you, Survivor. Thank you, Ear Monster, for curing me of any remaining desire I still had to play Survivor. Thank you. I'm out.
Like, I was right there. Like, that could have been my ear and my ear monster.
That could have been your ear. Yeah.
You know, it's like when you when people get like tragedies happen to people close to you, you're like, oh my god, that was me. That's crazy. Like, there's no reason it was her, and it wasn't like she was like rubbing her ear around the ear monster hole. You know, she was just like asleep at night one night.
Yeah, and it just went in right in. I don't know how every survivor isn't just wearing the buff across their ears at that point. like my new luxury item is earmuffs. What 3 things you want to bring with you on the Survivor? Yeah. Earplugs, earmuffs, and a shower cap.
Well, let this be a lesson to future contestants. Never clean your ears for like months before you go out there. You want to like get a real, just gross, waxy.
I feel like that would attract more things.
I was thinking kind of like block them out. I mean, I guess I see what you're saying, but
I don't know.
We need to. This is a new strategy for the game: ear cleanliness or ear dirtiness.
And the whole time during this sequence of, I think there's a bug inside my ear. I think there's at no point we have medical. Can somebody come look at this thing?
That's the craziest part. That's the craziest part is that how long it took, like how long she suffered with that. And it happens at night, as again I can attest, and I really feel like this whole episode was just like speaking to all of my traumas. When you're having a medical emergency at night, there's very little they can do. I mean, I'm sure if like you were on fire, someone would be out there with a hose or a bucket at least. But when you're that kind of emergency, it's like there's not that much they can do right then, and it's just crazy.
Yeah, the ear thing was real.
Can you imagine? I'm sure everyone is imagining just the sound of little, whatever, like 1,000 feet footsteps in your ear at that point. It's so terrible.
Steven, many people listen to this show with earbuds. Like, don't creep them out. Don't make people.
All of you right now are probably
All right, well, let's talk about the other 2 tribes, because I think that this is a very fun group that we have here. And the Brawn tribe, certainly, they had their own drama throughout this episode. But there was drama unfolding on both the Brains and the Beauty tribe. Yeah. Steven, what speaks to you more? Is this the know-it-alls? Let's talk about the Brains tribe first.
I think so, and as I was saying to you earlier, I actually am responsible for one of the Brains this season.
Helped. You are Joe Del Campo's grandson, right?
Yeah, exactly. I got I got Liz Markham Cast.
Look at you.
It's a great story. I met Liz on OkCupid. We dated.
Wow.
Yes, and I saw her profile on OkCupid, and I was like, this girl is. If it doesn't work out as a date, I've got to get her on Survivor because she's so perfect for Survivor. So we went out a couple of times and had a great time, but it didn't obviously work out. And I was like, all right, great, like let's send you to casting. And I can thank Liz actually for my current relationship because she was the one who said on OkCupid, listen, you gotta sort people by percentage match, rather than just like
she's a quantitative strategist.
Exactly. She knows that the algorithm is the secret to love, and that's how I found my current girlfriend. So it's I got a Liz to thank, and yeah.
So your move when you break up with somebody is it's not working out with us, but let me introduce you to my friend Lynn. She's gonna. The world is your oyster.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that makes me someone more desirable to date, because if it doesn't work out, maybe you'll wind up on television.
Yeah, boy. And yeah, if you ever end up single again, all these people that want to get on Survivor are just going to be clamoring at your door.
Yeah, this is great advertisement.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, there's a whole world out there. All right. So, Steven, okay, so you are, you know Liz well. Did you date anybody else on this cast?
Nobody, no, nobody else. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then talk to me about how you felt Liz
Although
did
wait,
on
one
night
thing I should
one.
say is that I spoke to Liz after after in between the seasons, right after she came back, and I said don't want any spoilers, but like I wanted to run things by her
Yeah,
about.
whatever you do, cover your ears the entire time, Steven. This is not a joke.
No, but we talked about footwear, which was like crazy because I ended up getting some crazy foot thing. So it's
Yeah.
like the one piece of advice I did get was a disaster. Anyway.
Okay, so how did you think that she did on night one? Because she's sort of in the midst of this power struggle of the young, hot people versus the old people.
I thought she was great. I thought her position was perfect. She's in the middle of it. She's in with the young people, but she's not the Aubrey who's freaking out, and she's not even the Neil who's kind of like maybe leading it a little bit. Did you get the sense that like Neil was like sort of the one pushing it the most?
I felt like Liz was pushing it the most, but she might just be the best narrator in that group.
Yes, and she's definitely like got great, very clear confessionals.
Yes. Did you work on that with her? Did you work on being narrating?
No.
Yeah, I thought that she was very good, and she really summed it up that you have Joe and Debbie are the outliers,
right.
And yeah, who knew the shelter people started in season 32 before
That's right.
before even Terry and Envitas and Kelly Wigglesworth got there.
I love your tweet. It was like the original beach people versus shelter people. Yeah. It's the legacy of that island. You can't help it.
Yeah. So we have these four people that we have where we have Dr. Peter, we have Liz, we have Neil, and we also have Aubrey. And again, maybe Aubrey is switching over to the older people who took care of her.
Well, that's what I was thinking too. It's so funny how quickly the game changes. You have this one core group that says like, "Hey, we're with each other on day one," and then we saw it last season with Abby and Terry. Now, I'm not trying to compare Aubrey with Abby. I would never say that about anybody. But getting that kind of comfort can really create a lot of loyalty. So that really could, who knows? Like maybe nothing comes of that, and maybe something comes of that.
Can you relate to Aubrey's freaking out? Because it wasn't so much, I mean, she said at first it seemed like it was physical, but she said it was more mental by the end of it.
Yeah, the one thing I didn't like was that she was like, please, people, take care of me. I think that's never like great.
All I need is just fruit and some water and some food.
Yeah.
So
also, like,
that for me.
Asking for water is one thing, but then when you're like asking for fruit and like, some shellfish, It is crazy. I mean, it was. I know that it was super hot out there. They were there like we were there. It was hot, and they were there at a hotter time of year. So the fact that they were all out like working in the heat is maybe dumb is the word for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that is tough because the one time that I did not feel well in either Survivor season was sort of like at the end of the second day where I was like, I really got to exert myself to try to build the shelter because I don't want people to think I'm sort of like the weak link.
Right.
And I really, like, it is not a fun moment where it's like, and I sort of came out of it very quickly, but it was just like very scary to sort of like, are they going to vote me off because I don't feel good, but I have to lay down right now?
Yeah, no, that's the crazy thing. Like, what do you do in that situation when you're sick? Like, you want to show strength, but in some people, I feel like Cochran kind of like handled it perfectly, right, with his sunburn, just like making a lot of fun of himself. I think is the way to do it.
Yeah. All right, so we had that struggle going on there with Aubrey, but then we also had the Beauty Tribe tonight, where the dynamics changed a couple of times, where it seems like that, and I feel like I had this right in my season previews, that the three women were sort of from the jump, they were all still together, but then their opinions on the guys seemed to shift a bit, and it started off that Tai Trang looked like that he was going to be the guy who was in really good with all the women and maybe also America's favorite survivor
ever.
But
he's great.
He is great. He's fantastic. We love Tai. But very quickly, that Tai Trang went out looking for the idol. Steven, do you have any insight into what's going on here?
I felt like this whole episode was like delving into all of my like neuroses and regrets. But you know what? Like, it's one of those things where like you go, and if you don't get caught, you look brilliant, and if you do get caught, you look stupid, you know. And it's like you don't have that much. I mean, he was pretty bad about it, right? Where he was like, okay, you guys walk ahead, and I'm just gonna walk behind this bush and do some things. You know, that was a little bit extreme. And I also think on a tribe, it's like hard. Like on a tribe of 10 people, is it easier to like kind of get lost in the shuffle, or is it or a tribe of 6 people? A tribe of 6 people, there's fewer people looking over their shoulder at you, but it's also like easier to keep track of where everybody is.
Right. Tai Trang, I mean, it was almost as though he got his hand caught in the cookie jar, and then he was confronted about it, and he's like, yeah, I just need 5 more minutes.
Yeah, that was the best part. Back. That was the best part. He's like, all right, I'm just going to keep looking right here. Y'all go back. Like, that was the worst save, Although, to be fair, he didn't like pretend he wasn't looking for the idol, and that's kind of one thing I've actually liked about, like Scott Pollard too. And he was like, "Oh, I'm a professional basketball player," and I was like, "Yeah, I wasn't looking. I was looking for the idol." Like, just admit it. People know like lying about small things is the worst thing you can do because then no one believes you ever.
Yeah, to the point that I'm not sure if anybody lied about anything tonight. I think
Liz lied. Liz lied about her job. She said she worked for the government when she actually worked for for Wall Street.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also Alicia said, maybe I have the idol, maybe I don't. Really, very straightforward all the way around. And we're used to so much on these Survivor and Big Brother people coming in and saying,
stupid
I'm
lies.
actually,
Yeah.
Right. I'm a
construction worker, not a cop.
Right. But everybody was pretty straightforward about just about everything that they're doing. So then on this Brains Tribe, so we have Beast Mode Cowboy. I know you are not a Big Brother fan, right? You did not watch Big Brother 16?
No.
Okay, so this was your first exposure to Beast Mode Cowboy. Was it a positive or negative experience for you?
So I'd seen on Twitter a lot of people were like, "Oh my God, I can't believe they're bringing this guy back." I thought, and obviously Survivor is much more edited than Big Brother is. You're not getting those 24-hour cams. But I thought he was totally charming, right? Mm-hmm. Like very gregarious. I liked him.
Yeah, I think that if you didn't see Big Brother, I feel like people are going to come away from from this season, especially the way that Jeff is talking about him in the preseason. It seems like that it's going to be a positive experience with Caleb here on Survivor. I don't know how he's going to do, but it seems like that they're not talking about him like, boy, this guy is a real loon. Wait till you see how crazy this guy is.
Right.
So I do think that if you don't have like the backstory of Big Brother 16, I think that you're going to have a very positive experience. And again, who knows how it'll end up going, but at least in the early running, I think that you're going to have a positive experience of Caleb.
Yeah, he's out of the gate confessional like, I've got more heart than anybody. I'll stand on my tiptoes. Standing on your tiptoes is hard. I guess if you have like good calves.
Yeah. Gotta put a block on your head? Sure.
Yeah.
So it seems as though where it looked like that the women were going to work with Ty, but then after we had the whole thing that happened with searching for the hidden immunity idol, it's almost as if Nick and Caleb are in the good graces with the women and Ty is on the outs.
It's funny, too, I love that little scene where the girls went looking for Ty, and they were like, yeah, looking for the idol puts a big target on you. And then one of the other girls was like, yeah, now he's got a target. And it was almost like, this is going to sound, I don't know, like it was like they were acting out something they'd seen on television. Like they didn't necessarily think it put a target on them, but they knew, oh, you look for the idol, so now we target you. It felt like, did you get that impression at all? It's like the ritual was so codified of like, oh, we've caught you, now you're the target. There was no actual thought of what does this mean? It was like, this is what we do now.
Yeah, I think that's very meta. I don't know. I have to process that. I don't know. I have to go back and watch that scene when I do my rewatch of the episode.
Yeah.
So for Tai Trang, do you think that he can get out of this, or do you think that he's sort of dead to rights now?
I feel like he's in a tricky spot, but I think the Beauty Tribe is stacked, right? If you look at that tribe in terms of challenge strength, they're stronger across the board than any of the other. I think they're the strongest tribe out of the gate, right? I feel like they're stronger than Braun. Don't you? Would you agree with that?
It's tough. I think that all the challenges, all the teams are pretty evenly matched along the way. I mean, I was really surprised that Brains ended up coming in first on this challenge.
Well, they pulled ahead a lot of the puzzle. I mean, the one thing I was surprised, they've got Joe, who is old, but he's ripped. He's the oldest. He and Rudy were both 72 at the start of their first season.
Correct.
So they're like tied. Rudy, I guess, because he came back in All-Stars, would technically be the oldest ever. But, he's a beast. He's so muscly. But in
Joe,
some
you talking about?
what? Joe,
Joe's
yeah.
beast?
Oh, yeah. In some ways, like the Braun tribe is the weakest. Like they have like with Alicia and Darnell obviously was a big liability. They're not like necessarily the strongest tribe.
So do you think it was a mistake for Braun to rest on their laurels and vote out a strong guy? And again, I think that Darnell, this was not his ideal first challenge. Do you think that it was a mistake to keep probably the person who was the weakest physically just because they're Braun? I
don't know. I think in a three-tribe season, you have to expect a lot of, they're going to swap, they're going to merge, they're going to, who knows what's going to happen. I think you keep loyalty. If you lose again, you've got Alicia to vote out next week. But we were both positing Darnell probably was not fitting in. Maybe they saw a connection between him and Sydney. That's the move. You take the strategic move, right?
Okay. Do you think that he alienated anybody with his aqua dump?
Yeah, I think that was part of it. First of all, I'm so happy they included that scene, and I have had more tweets about you poop in the water.
Again, this is your Stephen. This is like people like this. They were just like reimagining your life on Survivor.
It really was. You can poop in either place, but there's some suggestion that it's more sanitary to poop in the water. The problem is if it gets stormy and there's a current, it's hard.
Right.
So anyway, I
tweeted when you're in the water with Darnell, I'm not sure if you would rather have the goggles or not have the goggles.
Yeah, exactly. You don't necessarily want to see what's happening.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty great. But you got to walk away from camp. You don't just, if you can talk to the people who are there, you're not far away enough. We had like a marker on Cambodia. In Cambodia, you go past the marker, and that's the poop log. Anything past that,
past the marker, take the cap off. Right.
Yeah.
So. Stephen, what did you think of that moment where Alicia tried to draw on the parchment with the cap on the marker? That's a Survivor first, right?
What do you think? Did you ever do that, or did you always take the cap off?
I always knew to take the cap off, yeah. Yeah, worst cap at a tribal council since Andrew Savage, right? Yeah. So that was a very funny moment. I mean, that was, everybody, like the editors had to have loved that clip to include it.
Well, it's just perfect because it plays into what they were already saying about her. It played into her so perfectly.
All right, let's talk about some people that we have not discussed yet that made a good impression for you, and then I want to talk about somebody who we haven't talked about that has made a bad impression on you.
Yeah. Well, so what did you think of your former blogger, Nick?
I thought that Nick, while I know that people were really piling on him in the preseason, I thought that he had a pretty okay outing on the first night. I don't think he did anything where if you didn't read anything in the preseason and you just started watching the episode tonight, I don't think he really did one thing where you're like, oh, I hate Nick. Oh, that guy is the worst.
Yeah. He had a bunch of cocky confessionals about how handsome he was and how life was better for him because he was so handsome. But yeah, I thought he was fine. He seemed to fit in. I mean, he and Kayla both were kind of douchey. Oh, those chickens are gonna get killed. I'm gonna kill those chickens. They're gonna live for a few days. How dare they enjoy
kill Juicy J?
Yeah, but I didn't mock her while she was alive. I wanted her to have a good life. And same with Caleb, when he was just chopping at the tree extra. It's so bro, Ty's oh, don't hurt that tree, and he's it can't hit me back. What a lame thing to say.
What's with Ty Trang that he's I don't like it if anybody's gonna hurt plants or anything that's gonna, and then he's gonna look for the idol. He
rips up these trees
and throws it over his shoulder like it's nothing.
But didn't he replant it?
Is that? I guess so. I mean, that seems like that's doing more damage than what Caleb did to that one part of the tree.
I don't know. I think Ty just didn't want to go too deep. Don't wound it beyond all repair.
Yeah. And then I have to say also, I did not like when Caleb came out and was talking about how Tai Trang should not be on the beauty tribe, and that he has glasses like Mr. Miyagi. Mr. Miyagi doesn't even have glasses.
Yeah, I feel like there was that was like slang for something not.
I don't know what he's thinking of. That is not. I even did a Google search for Mr. Miyagi glasses, and there was like one point where Mr. Miyagi has like reading glasses, and there's like no frames. He has like what do you call that? Just like the thin wire.
So your problem with it is just that he doesn't really understand glasses fashion.
Or the Karate Kid.
Well, who played in the reboot? Who with Jaden Smith? Who played Mr. Miyagi there?
Oh, I think it was Jackie Chan, but I'm not sure.
And maybe he wasn't Miyagi, huh?
Maybe I didn't think. Maybe he's thinking of the reboot. That's right. Maybe he was thinking of maybe. I have not seen the Jaden Smith reboot.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe he's thinking of an original novel. Maybe in the book, the Karate Kid.
Okay. So, is there anybody else that made a negative impression on you that we haven't talked about?
Negative. We haven't talked about Debbie, but she made
Debbie.
Obviously, she made a tremendously positive impression on me.
Yes. Are you being sarcastic?
No, I think I used to be of the mindset of like I don't want annoying people on my TV, but now now that it's like 7 years of podcasting.
You tweeted earlier tonight. You're happy to see Coach back on your TV.
Yeah, she's so Coach. She's so Coach, and she knows it actually. The great thing, so like I feel like she's the Tocantins Coach. I think Coach, after a couple of seasons, he like got into the whole like mythology, and like it was much more about like these are the quotes I'm gonna use, and like. But season 1, Tocantins, Coach was just this like pure blustery vulnerability is what I'm calling it, which is like, he claimed he could do everything, and yet he never actually showed us anything. And even especially with like, I'm the greatest fire starter, she was coaching from the sidelines, and she was giving the wrong information from the sidelines. It was so Coach. It reminded me so much of like, all of his little, if I go to Exile Island, I'm not going to ever make fire, and I'm not going to eat. And it's like, yeah, we know, because you don't know how to make fire. Like, we get it, Coach. Obviously, Coach grew, and he learned. But, and like, that was the wonder of Coach, is that he could go from being, that's why he's this iconic character. But, she's so Coach. Don't you think?
When she was talking about her jobs and listing things off about like I do this and I do this and I do this and I also do this, and then sometimes on the weekend I'll go pick up a shift of Red Lobster.
Yeah.
That was very good.
Well, the editors, a few people pointed this out on Twitter. The editors apparently for her profession, they changed it every time that they cited her in a chyron.
Oh, that's funny. I like it whenever they do stuff like that. That's
it's like former federal agent. Yeah. It was like, question mark. Yeah.
Can we talk about Scott Pollard also? Because I was actually pretty impressed with him. I thought that he might be one of these guys that's sort of like in the what the hell do I need this aggravation for? But I think that he came out and was playing pretty hard, and I think that dynamic between him and Kyle on that Braun tribe is going to be very interesting to watch, because they do seem like they're both scoundrels.
Yeah, I love that, scoundrels. They're great too. They're great. Just the shots of them standing together, I love. Because he's just so big and Kyle's not. Like I said earlier, like when they came out and said, "What do you think of?" He admits he's a professional basketball player. I love that. He said he went over to Alicia and was like, "You're safe. Just stop scheming." Even didn't really get through to her. I thought he was great.
Yeah, because it's interesting to see him come out and say, hey, I'm a professional basketball player, but also be sort of like playing hard also, where it's not like he's doing the thing of like, hey, yeah, I played in the NBA, so, and just sort of like being like Cliff Robinson was, I think, and I do think that Cliff was playing, but I think that he wasn't playing as hard of a game as Scott is playing early on, where Scott's really going for it.
Yeah. What about Scott versus Jeff Kent?
Yeah, Jeff Kent, he played hard, but he was sort of like the, oh shucks, I'm just a guy that I put motorcycles together, and so, and he was really like getting his group together, like, hey, let's get out Penner, I don't trust him, but he wasn't owning also who he was at the same time.
Right. Yeah, no, I thought, and it really seemed like Scott sort of, and Kyle as well, sort of they there kind of was like a little bit of a power cluster there. So I liked that with Jennifer.
Yeah, overall, I really feel very positive about this group after night one.
Yeah, you mean the whole, like the Braun or the whole cast?
The group, the 17 remaining players. Like I feel like that. There's something interesting about just about everybody that's left out there.
And I think that the show did a great job of presenting all of them to us. Like, I felt like it was an incredibly balanced episode where I really got a sense for everyone. Like, did you feel like there was anyone you didn't come away with knowing a little bit at least?
No, I think they did a really good job. I think that the 3-tribe format really does speak to that. Like, even in your season, last season, with the 2 tribes of 10, there were a lot of people that they didn't focus on. You didn't really, for a while, we were sort of like, even people who are big personalities, like a Sierra, we didn't really get to see much of her until 4 or 5 episodes in, and then you had people like that, like a Monica, who was pretty invisible early on. So I don't think there was one person that you could say, boy, that person really was invisible in night one.
Yeah, I think everyone really got a lot of good, you really got a sense of like both who they were and where they fit into the tribe. Yeah. I thought it was great and got like their
tribes, 90 minutes, that you really can do a lot there with that sort of setup. All right, let's get into some of these questions, Stephen. I know you love the questions. You're back. Yeah. Give us your first question back.
Oh my God. Okay. CS Doctor Who fan Clayton Scott wants to know, is the Braun tribe already doomed to be the Trainwreck tribe? Good question. Okay. There's always a Trainwreck tribe on these 3-tribe seasons.
Well, not always. I feel like in Worlds Apart, we didn't really have a Trainwreck tribe.
Oh, that's true. That's true. The Brains, yeah, I guess, or the whatever they were, white collars.
They only went to tribal once.
Is that right? Maybe they were just individually Trainwrecks.
Yeah, no collar went twice. Yeah. And the blue collar went once, and they only went that first time. We thought they were going to be the Trainwreck after the first night, but they never went back to Tribal Council.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
I think you need a Trainwreck tribe because that's the story early on, where you have a one tribe that's just a disaster, and it's like, are they going to get their act together? And
it's always fun to have like the hubris tribe, the tribe that like sticks together and then completely implodes at the merge.
Do you think that Braun will continue on this path of being a Trainwreck? Because I don't really feel like they will.
The thing is, I don't see more conflict on Braun than on any of the other tribes. Like there's no real. We haven't seen any like explosive conflict brewing, right? Like Beauty, we've got Ty, who's kind of on the outs because he was caught looking for an idol. Brains, there's like a little bit of like the young versus the old thing, but who knows? And then on Braun, Alicia's a little bit of an outcast, and like maybe Sydney is not going to be happy that Darnell was voted out. But there's no sort of like big clash of personalities yet.
Yeah, we haven't had too much fighting yet, but maybe it's to come. But
it's nice. I like that.
You like no fighting.
I mean, obviously I want conflict, but I thought it was like we got 18 people out here. They're all playing the game. They're all doing their best. We don't need like it wasn't like a bullying or worlds apart kind of like that. Obviously that we're talking about the scope of a season versus a single episode. So we'll see.
Okay. All right, let's go to our next question. This is from Carrie Rapp, who says, who surprised you tonight? Who didn't? Well, I feel like that Scott Pollard was a big surprise for me in terms of what he was doing. Is there anybody that you would say was not a surprise for you? Who did you have pegged coming into this?
I knew Liz was going to be a smart game player who's going to do well, so I'm happy to see that she's right in there.
Will it annoy you if Liz wins the game?
No, I would be delighted.
Because
how much better is that?
From what I understand, the person who's closest with Stephen Fishback in any given always the winner. Yeah. Go back to Token Sheens.
Yeah.
JT, closest with Stephen Fishback. That's the winner. Okay. Survivor 26. Cochran plays closest with Stephen on the board. Yeah. Would you say, is that fair?
Yeah, for sure.
Winner.
Yeah.
Season 27, Tyson, closest with Steven, winner.
Yeah.
Jeremy, winner.
You won the podcast award. You won the People's Choice Award for podcasting.
Yes. Sophie. Can we do ex post facto?
I know. It's outrageous. It's really outrageous. But Coach didn't win that season, so that's that would have been.
I guess so. The season that Coach played with Ozzy. Yeah. I think that maybe. Well, you ended up being closer with Sophie.
Yeah, that's true. It was destiny. So I guess whoever wins this season will be my new best friend.
Yeah, and you always want to be friends with the people that have the money. That's true.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. What about Brandy? What does she have to say?
Brandy wants to know, why is looking for an idol such a bad thing? Self-preservation shouldn't be punished. This is sort of what I was saying. I think it's like this idea of, first of all, I think anyone kind of like doing something schemy and not telling you kind of don't like that, right? But I agree. I think the girls were like so like plugged into this idea of, he's looking for the idol, so we need to target him. There wasn't a sense of like, well, what does this mean? Like, should we talk to him about it? Like, how can I use this to my advantage? Like, it was just kind of like plugging into this narrative of idols that I think, I think that always happens, and it's why it's great when they bring something new into the game, like an advantage, where it's like, oh, I have to think about this and like assess this rather than just kind of playing the game that I've seen be played before.
Well, I think to the people that are out there, it's like, boy, Ty is looking for the idol. He's not saying like, hey, we should go look for the idol. I'll look over here, you look over there. He's doing his own thing, and he's sort of gone rogue. And so he's not looking out for the group. And why is he looking for the idol? So,
but don't you? But nobody's but that's like not like no one really thinks someone is looking out for the group. Like it's Survivor,
But hold on, but wasn't your whole thing in last season was that I want to find the idol so that I can build a coalition with people, and I want to find this idol as a group with Jeremy and with the people on Bion so that we can sort of come up with a feeling that we are an alliance that will be tighter because we found the idol together?
I wanted to be the one finding the idol as part of that coalition. I wanted it to be in my hands. And in fact, there was like a little section of wood that I was pretty sure the idol was going to be hidden in, and I didn't even tell Jeremy about it. And it turned out actually that was the place where he had previously found the idol. But so it's like you want
the clue.
Yeah, the clue, right? Well, and you want to be part of the people looking. We don't know like how Ty would have used it, and that's why I'm thinking like with these girls, it's like, I guess like when you're with a group of people and they're all saying, oh, Ty is looking, I guess then you have to kind of, just to be flexible, be like, oh, I'm with this group, yeah, Ty's on the outs. But maybe privately you go up to Ty and say, hey, let's find that idol together.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to another question from Anne Margaret. Wow, I didn't know Anne Margaret even watches this show. Who is the new Amber for Caleb? Will he reach stalker status on Survivor? I don't think so, and we didn't see Caleb talking about any sort of romantic engagements. I know that I believe he's engaged in real life now. I'm not sure, again, what the timeline is, if he had a girlfriend when he went to go play Survivor. So I didn't see any sort of potential showmancing going on for Caleb here.
Now, can you? I don't know this reference, so.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna try to artfully talk about this because I know that it's a sensitive subject for some. But there was a woman on Big Brother 16, and her name was Amber, and Caleb really had a thing for her, and the feelings were not mutual, but there would often be the other players in the house, like the Derricks and people like that, would also sort of get they're bored, and they would get Caleb sort of worked up about like, hey, you should go ask her out, you should go talk to her, and then he would like always want to ask her out on a date. She did not really want to go on a date. The show certainly made it seem like she was awfully uncomfortable with that sort of courtship, and eventually. People would throw around the S word quite a bit online, and so and then when she was no longer in the game, then he was much more focused and grounded.
Okay.
He's
a man who loves love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Loves love.
Louis Estrada wants to know: was it a bad social move for Jason to openly talk about expectations at Tribal Council?
Yeah, I don't know, Steven, that you do talk about how, you got the infamous advice from Cochran about sort of like talking things through at Tribal Council, because then people will look at you as being, more strategic than emotional. And I know that you've sort of said that, things that Cochran told you worked and didn't work for you in season 31. So did you like the way that Jason approached Tribal Council? Because he was very forthcoming with everything he was thinking.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a little bit over the top, right? Like he's like, if you're calling people out at Tribal Council, they're not gonna. But it's funny though, like I in Tocantins was very tight-lipped about what I was saying about people at Tribal Council, to the point where I basically said nothing at Tribal Council. And I was always shocked on subsequent seasons and in Tocantins, and then certainly at the start of Cambodia, where people would just say these things. And then it was like, well, we said that in Tribal Council, like that's just us all clearing the air. And I think that to a certain degree, people do use Tribal Council that way. I think the way what Tribal Council has evolved, where people now are using people are more open about what they say at Tribal Council, and it doesn't necessarily affect you when you go back to the game. And I think that it's almost like a safe space in a weird way so it's funny, again, every part of me as a sort of mid-school, old school player from season 18.
No, you're new school now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. My old parts, believe don't, keep your mouth shut and just be nice to everyone. But my new parts think that, what, you can shoot a little bit more from the hip in Tribal Council.
You're transitioning.
Yeah. I mean, between philosophies.
Yes, transitioning between philosophies. So, the thing with Kyle was that he talked about how that they asked him who stands out, and he's like, well, Darnell and Blondie.
Yeah.
It was almost like that he talked about her with some disdain. And it's one thing if it was really behind the scenes, he's like, hey, listen, Alicia, you and I, we're good. But it's almost like that he was making a point of that he doesn't even know her name. And I can't feel like that was all a ruse and a cover for their actually secretly close relationship, no?
No, you're right. I mean, it was too much. I'm trying to, I gave the fishy to Kyle, and I'm trying to somehow justify that now, because it does seem like he made a lot of mistakes. It does seem like there's a lot, because you're right. Talking through it with you, I'm seeing a lot more, a lot more of that stuff. It's hard. You make these snap judgments, watching the episode, and then suddenly you're like, oh, yeah, I guess that was not that great. But I liked him.
So you followed Samoa very closely. It was the first season after you played initially, when you first started finding your voice with your people blogs. Do you feel like that there is enough of the positive things that Russell did, at least early on in Samoa, out of Kyle? Are you seeing that sort of similarity?
Well, the positive stuff that Russell did, right? He's got his allies who are all loyal to him individually. I don't think Kyle's I did like Kyle sort of maybe they'll all be truthful in a way, all my alliances. You did see him kind of getting in everybody's ear a little bit. Then I guess that was really the major thing, though. Is he Russell-esque, Russellian?
Russell won people over early on.
He was very charming, and he won people over. That's exactly right. He told a sort of sob story about himself that wasn't true, and then secretly he was doing all these things to sabotage people. And he was that's what made him so compelling, and also what kind of got him actually a really strong position in his first tribe, where he was sort of everybody's ally. Yeah, not right now.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's take a few more questions here tonight. First, Know-It-All's back for Stephen Fishback. Joyful as can Ty recover from his idol blunder? I mean, it's only day 3. We've seen people come back from much worse circumstances than this, right?
Yeah, I think once the little bit of game plays out, this is all forgotten. Once people start getting voted off, once alliances are formed, who cares what you did, 3 days ago?
Okay. What about this one from Voices of Silence?
Voices of Silence wants to know, assuming the 3-3 was an intentional idol-preventing move, that's an interesting idea, how long can the 4 strong people stick together, and is Blondie doomed? Now, I saw some people suggesting that on Twitter, too, that this was an intentional, the split was intentional. I mean, based on the edit we saw Kyle and Jennifer making that decision in the moment, kind of, or Kyle especially deciding in the moment to switch. So I didn't really see that. Wait, the question's gone. Where's the second half of the question?
Well, let's just talk about the idea of whether or not it was is there any possibility that was a vote split? And that didn't even occur to me based on what we saw in the edit of Darnell talking about his story, and then Kyle and Jennifer talking about that through. Do you think is that even possible? Because I mean, who would be the third person to end up voting?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's conceivable. And then when Jennifer and Kyle are talking about changing their votes, what they really mean is that they're going to change their votes to change their votes back, like in the second vote, but they decide not to do that.
If you had the group of 4, wouldn't you end up with a 2-2-2 vote split? Like hypothetically, if you thought Darnell had the idol and you thought that Darnell and Sydney were a thing, and then you felt good about your 4, I guess if you felt that Darnell and Sydney might have potentially flipped somebody over to vote with their 2.
Oh, I don't know. I think that's I mean, that's getting too complicated. But if there's like a slight chance that someone is an idol, do you split the vote? I mean, that's the perennial question, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Let's do a couple more. Doug Potter wants to know: is Debbie getting the the dodo edit? Oh, come on, that Doug.
I thought Aubrey really got, maybe Alicia, if anybody got the fishback edit, or Aubrey got that. I thought Debbie got the classic coach edit. Look at this like wacky person.
Yeah. Okay. How about from Clayton Scott?
Clayton Scott wants to know: how big of a turnaround for Aubrey goes Marek making the challenge look like a piece of cake? It was a big turnaround. It was good. She did a great job in that challenge.
Redemption story
for sure, and I think that was kind of how it was set up, right? Like, definitely a redemption story for Aubrey. All is forgotten.
All right, Matthew says...
Maybe it's because she ate all that fruit, though. It seems kind of unfair. Maybe she had extra energy from all the
extra fruit. Like Tyson, the coconut bandit.
Yeah, exactly.
Is something happening that we're not seeing because of the Darnell hatred? One of Jessica Lisa's pet peeves. Do you feel like there's Darnell hatred?
I mean, I think we've sort of discussed this already. I think we probably both think that, right, that Darnell was, there was more going on than we saw, obviously. I mean, we know for sure there's more going on than we saw. And probably there was other things happening that specifically made them choose Darnell.
Right. I mean, the only previous time I can think of on Survivor when somebody lost the goggles in some sort of a challenge was back in the Philippines when Mike Skupin.
Classic.
Yes, classic Mike Skupin dove into the water and just shattered the goggles, and an artist who hated him for quite, he was the first one on that bandwagon, and that he was very upset about that whole thing.
Yeah, Mike Skupin. I mean, losing the goggles is never a good thing. You're doing something. It's unforgivable. It's like you blow the challenge for everybody. But there's got to be more. There's got to be more, right? I mean, all right. Sebastian Reish wants to know: is CBS overplaying the Medivacs theme with the bug and the anxiety scene, showing us scenes that wouldn't normally make the cut?
Listen, somebody gets a bug.
Yeah, that's making the cut.
Burrowing into their brain. That's making the cut any season.
That is making the cut. I agree.
Cut on Heroes versus Villains.
And Aubrey, her little breakdown too, I think that's making the cut. I mean, these are like high drama moments. These are the character moments that are the heart and soul of the show. So I think that, especially with a 90-minute episode, and I think that's also part of it, why it maybe felt like, you had like a second to breathe with some of these moments, is because there's more time.
Okay, let's do one last question here with Steven. John Max says, when was the last time they started the game without Probst chatting with everyone first? No Matt chat. Yeah, what was the last time we did that? Well, we had Jeff on the boat. I think that counts.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, because that's the way they started your season, where it was everybody was on the boat. I mean,
we had some boat chat though.
Yeah, no, I think that we usually do that. I mean, I think going back to Philippines, I think it's the same sort of start like that, where we kicked everybody off the boat, and everybody's like, "We've got a bunch of stuff on this boat, and you got 10 seconds," and then Penner was like, "Or what happens?"
Yeah.
Like, you get your ass out of here, Penner. So it's a similar sort of opening, I think, to Philippines, another Philippine similarity. All right, Steven, tomorrow we will have Darnell here on the podcast to talk about what could go wrong for him.
I'm so curious to hear what he says. What he like.
That should be a good one.
Yeah.
Of course, you could hear Steve, or you could read Steven is back with the People blog ongoing.
Yeah. It's going to be up about it's posted. So it's I'll be tweeting it as soon as we're done here.
Follow the great @Stephen Fishback on Twitter to find out when that is going to go up. Plus, we are going to have our recap with Jeff Varner coming up on Thursday, plus your voicemails with Bryce Isaiah. Get your voicemails in. Go to robhasawebsite.com/voicemail or 323-282-RHAP. Then 1 week from tonight, Stephen and I will be live together for the West Coast Know-It-Alls. A little bit of a programming note there if you're coming out there that we are going to be 6:30, doors open. We're starting to watch Survivor 7 p.m. Pacific time. So make sure you're there for that. Don't come in casually late or they're going to start watching at 8. No, we're going to be podcasting by 8 p.m. Pacific time. How about that?
So when should I get there?
You should get there 4 o'clock.
Okay. Wow.
The call time.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah,
Will there be a green room? Will there be a green room?
I don't know if I told this story, then maybe people forgot it. But the first know-it-alls that we ever did, the one that we did, it was last October, a year before you guys were playing during San Juan del Sur, that I got to the club for the show, and Steven texted me like, yeah, I can't make it. And it was like in the basement, like it was like these rooms are often like downstairs, and I had like no cell phone reception. And I don't know if you texted me like just kidding or whatever, but for like a half an hour, I'm like, okay, like, so what's going on your end? What's going on over there?
The small joys in life.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So very excited. Can't wait to get into it next week. What's the hashtag, Steven?
Oh God, Rob,
Coach Edit?
Coach, yeah, there we go. Thank you, Coach Edit.
Coach Edit. All right, or hashtag Steven's friend for the inevitable winner of any season.
Yeah, there we go. I like Steven's friend. How about that?
Okay, how about that? And you could be Steven's friend because he's back. Josh did such a great job last season filling in for you. That we are going to be continuing on with Josh. He's going to have his own podcast, The Wiggle Room. We did the first episode this week.
Okay.
Come on.
That's awesome. I'm psyched about that. I love Josh. That's great. So what is he going to talk about?
Oh, we're talking about the story because that's his thing of talking about drama.
Oh, drama.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about all that and much more in the Wiggle Room. We're going to talk about why so-and-so lost with David Bloomberg. You like that podcast?
I do, and Bloomberg is great. Yeah, he's been covering Survivor for like much longer than we have.
Well, I was on it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So he's a true authority.
So much to do. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Go to robhasawebsite.com/iTunes or search for Rob as a Podcast in your favorite podcatcher. Looking forward to reading what you guys have to say in the comments, and we'll talk to you again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.